right now.
Legal on demand. Safe, legal on demand.
Safe, legal on demand.
We must stop it.
I'm very optimistic. This creates a lot of excitement in the pro-life community, no doubt about it.
If this decision holds, it's really quite a radical decision.
This lawless action should be investigated and punished.
I have a 16-month-old son. These laws are going to affect his nieces, his friends, his potential partner, his life in the future as well.
Tonight, Roe v. Wade is still the law of the land.
But the future of the right to an abortion is uncertain tonight. Thanks for joining us on Denver 7 News at 5. I'm Shannon Ogden.
And I'm Jacqueline Allen. Tonight, we are going in depth, looking 360 at multiple perspectives of Roe v. Wade, with rallies happening here in Colorado and the protections our state has in place.
Plus, how the president, the high court, and other states are reacting to the possibility that Roe could be overturned.
Now, we start today. Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts confirmed that the draft opinion leaked last night by Politico is authentic. Chief Justice Roberts added that the draft, quote, does not represent a final decision by the court, and he has ordered an investigation into what he's calling an egregious breach of trust.
Now, almost immediately after that draft was leaked, protests began outside the Supreme Court building. And right now, protests are forming all over the country from those on all sides of this issue.
Tonight, we kick off our in-depth coverage live with reporters in D.C. and here in Colorado. We start with the local rally happening at our Capitol steps with Denver 7's Patrick Perez.
So, Patrick, you've been out there all afternoon. More and more people are showing up now.
Yeah, Shannon, this crowd just started to trickle in here for what is supposed to be the second of 3 total rallies planned for today. What's different today, right now at 5 o'clock, is that the anti-abortion crowd has shown up with some really graphic images that people are trying to cover up with their umbrellas. And also the pro-choice crowd has brought out some signs containing profanity. But either way, I want to take you now to what the rally at noon looked like, which actually took place on the Capitol steps.
Safe, legal on demand.
Outside the west side of the state capitol, a loud and angry crowd on a normally quiet Tuesday afternoon protesting a leaked draft opinion from the U.S. Supreme Court that shows a willingness to overturn Roe versus Wade.
So let's make it very clear here. Abortion rights is a racial justice issue.
Carla Gonzalez Garcia was one of dozens in the crowd concerned about the decision the High Court is considering and the lasting implications they say it could have for a woman's access to abortion.
The only thing that unsafe and illegal abortion do is kill people.
Joining the protesters were state lawmakers like Julie Gonzalez and Leslie Herod, who recently helped pass the Reproductive Health Equity Act. It guarantees access to abortion in Colorado, despite what the justices decide, although it could be overturned if conservatives regain the majority in the legislature.
Should the Supreme Court decision stand in the way that it has been issued as a draft? Y'all, the work that we have done and the work that we collectively will continue to do will matter more than ever.
Others who aren't so connected to the movement say they're taking this moment to teach a lesson to their young ones about fighting for what they believe is right.
I have a 16-month-old son, and when these things happen, I can't imagine myself in the future looking him in the face and saying I didn't stand up to also fight for women of color, for poor people.
Chief Justice John Roberts says the draft opinion is just that, a draft, and it isn't final. But whatever the court decides in these next few months, it's clear Coloradans will make sure their voices are heard. So this second rally, like I said earlier, is now underway. A third one begins at 6:30. And what's different about this one than the one that you saw in that story at noon is that now people who are against abortion are showing up here along with police to kind of keep things calm. We'll keep you posted. Shannon.
Patrick Perez of the state capitol. Thank you for your work on that, Patrick. And going deeper for you tonight, of course, a lot has changed regarding abortion in the U.S. since Roe v. Wade was decided. That was 1973. So starting in 73, the number of abortions steadily increased each year, topping out in 1990 at 1 million. But since 1990, it's steadily decreased. According to the 2019 data from the CDC, 6 in 10 women who have abortions are already mothers at the time. And a large majority, 93% of abortions happen within the first trimester, 43% in the first 6 weeks. And nearly 50% of people who have had an abortion live below the poverty level.
If a final decision does overturn Roe v. Wade, it would not outlaw abortion, but rather would leave it to individual states to determine the procedure's legality. Taking a 360 look tonight, political experts predict more than 20 states are likely to ban or substantially restrict access to abortion if Roe is overturned. 13 states across the South and Midwest have so-called trigger laws, or bans on abortion, that only go into effect if Roe is struck down. For example, in Idaho, performing an abortion would become a felony that's punishable with a 2 to 5 year prison sentence.
And concern the Supreme Court would reverse Roe was the reason Colorado lawmakers passed a law last month securing abortion rights here in Colorado. Now, it is law in Colorado, but is not protected right now in the state constitution. Our political reporter Megan Lopez joins us now with the political implications of this. Both sides, both parties are making moves to change law in Colorado.
Yeah, they are, in the short term and in the long term, Shannon. And as you talked about, there is that Colorado Reproductive Health Equity Act. That's the one that passed and was signed by the governor last month. That's a statutory switch, meaning that it could be changed by either the voters or the next legislature, really depending on how the midterm elections go. Supporters of abortion rights praised the governor and Democratic lawmakers for taking that step, but they said that that is certainly not the end of the road. They're working on a ballot question for 2024 to change Colorado's constitution and to add abortion access to it. It takes a lot more votes to pass that, but it's also a lot more difficult to overturn. That ballot question also aims to open up funding for that type of care.
So in 1984, we passed an amendment that said no state funding can be used for abortions. That includes Medicaid funding. So if someone is on Medicaid and needs access to care, it also includes, say, your state employees who have insurance coverage and whether that includes abortion care or not.
Now, on the other end of the spectrum, even before that draft SCOTUS ruling was released, anti-abortion advocates have been working on a ballot question of their own. It would ban the procedure at any part of a pregnancy for any reason other than saving a mother's life, removing a fetus after it was not viable, or removing an ectopic pregnancy. Now, the petition organizers are in the process of collecting signatures in order to get that one on the November ballot. Numerous previous ballot questions on those abortions have failed, but a woman I spoke with who ran that 2020 ballot question says that this potential SCOTUS ruling has given her new hope.
And I think we are gaining a lot of momentum, and more and more people are getting information about what's going on with the issue of abortion, how much it hurts our communities. And so I'm very optimistic.
There are also federal efforts underway to pass a law to protect abortion rights, but for now, with or without Roe versus Wade, abortions in Colorado are legal and will remain that way. I'm live. Megan Lopez, number 7.
All right, thank you, Megan. And people in the U.S. are already flooding the internet to see which states have protected abortion rights. The Washington Post reports the website abortionfinder.com usually sees about 2,500 visits on weekdays. Today, that site has received more than 10,000 views and counting.
If the rationale of the decision as released were to be sustained, a whole range of rights are in question, a whole range of rights. And the idea we're letting the states make those decisions, localities make those decisions, would be a fundamental shift in what we've done.
President Biden, they're reacting to this draft opinion today before taking off at Air Force One. Now, he calls into question, quote, he calls it the fundamental right to privacy in the U.S. He added that Americans have a right to make a personal choice about whether to have children. The president also told reporters he hopes ultimately there is not enough support for Roe versus Wade to be overturned. And joining us live with reaction from Washington, reporter Isabella Rosales.
And Isabel, quick reaction from people across America, especially in front of the Supreme Court.
Jacqueline, Shannon, good evening to you. Absolutely, this unprecedented leak sending shockwaves all over Washington and beyond. Right behind me over my right shoulder is the Supreme Court. Not sure if my mic can catch that, but chanting, loud chanting all over there as hundreds of pro-choice supporters have come out to make their voices heard. Also, a smaller group of counter-protesters have been out there. The pro-choice crowd holding up signs also stating choice is a human right, abortion is health care. And it's not just here, Jacqueline. From New York to Houston and beyond, we're seeing more and more mobilization, people going out to municipal buildings, to parks, to any highly visible area to make those voices heard. We also have a pulse on the opinion here from Americans about abortion, and I heard it mentioned earlier in your show there that it's not, most Americans are not in favor of overturning Roe v. Wade. We have a CNN poll from back in January that shows 69% of them want Roe v. Wade to remain in place, and the majority of them believe that if it does fall, they want some sort of permissive abortion law in their particular case. So altogether, 30% of Americans that want Roe v. Wade to be overturned. Despite all this, the Supreme Court clearly does not function in the field of public opinion. Jacqueline.
Thank you, Isabel. And combo question here after this leak, what is next for the Supreme Court? Is this essentially a done deal? And if Roe is struck down, what does that mean for abortion?
Right, and we certainly, another unusual from the Supreme Court, often shrouded in secrecy here in Washington. We actually heard from the Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts himself releasing a statement stating, hey, this is just a draft of a public opinion circulated back in February. Language, sometimes votes actually change and have in the past. We are expecting that highly anticipated final opinion, final publication in late June, early July. That is scheduled with the end of their term here. And as far as to the impacts, there are several states, you guys were enlightening your audience about that have so-called trigger laws, indicating that once Roe falls, if that's what the court goes with, automatically certain states would have instant bans on abortion or limitations to abortion. So far, at least 13 states, abortion would immediately become illegal. But in the overall bigger picture, what would this look like? Whether abortion is permissible is going to be left out to individual states, creating a patchwork system where, depending on where you live, it's either allowed or not allowed. We're seeing that in Democratic-led states, likely abortion will largely be untouched, but in Republican-led states, it would have severe limitations or be outright banned. Jacqueline.
All right, thank you very much, Isabel. Very busy there. As Isabel mentioned, right now, many are wondering who exactly leaked the draft opinion to Politico, and that's the focus right now for many Republican lawmakers. Going deeper tonight, Colorado Representative and GOP Senate candidate Ron Hanks said on Twitter that the leaker should be found and, quote, tried and then convicted of an insurrection against our government. Coincidentally, Hanks was in Washington during the January 6th riot at our nation's capital, though there is no evidence that he actually entered the building.
So Congress could pass a law protecting abortion access regardless of how the Supreme Court ultimately rules here. It's very unlikely. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said today the Senate would vote next week on the Women's Health Protection Act, written to secure legal abortions. But that is all but certain to stall with a Republican filibuster. And all night on Denver 7, we continue our in-depth 360 coverage on what's at stake if Roe is overturned.
And you can also read the very latest right now on thedenverchannel.com. We're also going deeper on the free Denver 7 Plus app that's available to download now on your streaming device.
This project is really one beautiful example of what it looks like for community partners and organizations to come together.
New electric shuttles and e-bikes are coming to a Denver neighborhood whose residents could really use a new way to get around.
Montbello, they should really have more. They should, deserve better.
Scattered showers tonight, then cool, cloudy with more widespread rain on Wednesday. A big warm-up on the way for the end of the week. I'll have your forecast coming up.
And the quest for the Stanley Cup. We're live at Ball Arena, where the Avs will hit the ice for Game 1 of the playoffs.
Everyone needs to chip in, but it's up to, our top guys to drive the bus. Every momentum swing, every bouncing puck, every board battle just matters that much more.